Welcome to Mind Meets Body and Soul, a podcast that connects the dots between clinical mental health and spiritual holistic wellness. I'm Heather, a licensed clinical social worker and mental health guru.
And I'm Devon, a Reiki master, spiritual teacher, and lover of all things woo-woo. We're here to discuss various wellness topics, highlighting the connection between the mind, body, and soul.
We'll be offering nuggets of wisdom from each of our fields with the ultimate goal of bridging the gap between our two worlds. Whether you lean more into cognitive psychology
or flow with the woo-woo waters, our intention is to help you prioritize yourself and unlock a fresh perspective to healing, growth, and expansion. We're so excited you're here. Let's jump in. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Mind Meets Body and Soul here on this lovely Friday with my podcast co-host, Heather. Heather, how's it going?
It's going well, Devon. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. I have to say the 3-week break from podcast recording, editing, publishing was really nice, but I really did miss our, weekly, twice weekly meets, seeing your face here, sharing these conversations. So I'm really happy to be back.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like the structure of how we record. I think our sessions help me pay attention to the world a little bit differently. So I'm enjoying the last couple times that we've been able to sit down and record again.
I'm with you there. And last week we had such a great conversation, such a full circle moment for us talking about all things intention setting, so much that we had to create another space for another conversation on intention setting. And so listeners, that's what we are getting into today is part 2 of our intention setting conversation.
Yeah, sorry for in the midst of last conversation, I think the conversation was going so well and I kind of just abruptly threw it on you. Let's make this part 1 of a part 2 series because there's so much. I felt like when we were recording, both of us were kind of like, oh, I don't want to say that and go down that rabbit hole because there's so much here with intention setting and all of this. So I think it was kind of important. And I apologize for last minute throwing that on you, but I do love that we can expand even more on some of the things that we were saying here in part
Absolutely.
2.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. I think we can never talk too much about something like intention setting, especially at the beginning of a new year or whether that's a new season, new cycle, new phase, whatever. So I'm happy to be expanding on this conversation, especially because at the time that we had recorded for last week's episode, neither you nor I had fully chosen our word, our intention for the year ahead, nor had we created our vision board for the year ahead. So this feels like the perfect time for us to revisit this conversation a week later and really expand on how we can bring more clarity, more intention, more mindfulness to the year ahead.
Yeah. No, totally. It feels like we're kind of coming full circle with it now that we've both chosen our words and done our vision boards. So it's nice to close the loop with those activities, but also in this conversation, I think it'll be well timed.
Agreed. So let's dive in. A hot topic on social media that I'm seeing these days, or at least in the beginning of the year, is what's your one word for the year ahead? Everybody's prompting, what's your intention for the year ahead? What's the theme of the year ahead? And I do love that prompt because as we talked about in last week's episode, from the realm of energetics, setting an intention directs the flow of energy. So when we pick a word or words for the year ahead, that really sets the tone for the year. It serves, like we said last week, it serves as that North Star that then throughout every day, week, month of the year, we are referring back or we're looking up. We're talking about a star. We're looking up at that guiding post for us. So last year we both shared you had chosen the word flow for your overall intention theme for the year ahead, and I had chosen the word expansion. And that those are words that and intentions that you and I continuously came back to throughout the year as we were reflecting, as we were making decisions. And then towards the end of the year, when we were chatting about what our intentions for this upcoming year for 2024 might be, you offered a suggestion or you offered an idea that really sparked some inspiration for me as well. So, would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah. It's funny because I was actually inspired by you, which then inspired you again. So it's like inspiration inception. I was thinking about how last year you have two vision boards. So you have like your personal vision board and then you have your business vision board. And that made me want to come up with two separate words because I think the things that I want for me personally might be different from my business. And like, that's okay. Part of what I want to do this year is have a little bit more separation between myself as an individual person and my business. So I wanted to come up with two separate words, which was actually inspired by your two separate vision boards.
Mm, I love that. And I think that's really a helpful reminder for those that are one, creating their words, creating their vision boards, is that we can create that separation between like what we want in our personal life and what we want in our professional life. So I love that. I love that it was inspired by the vision board. And I also saw on social media that you not only created your vision boards, but you also created a vision board for tortellini.
Tortellini has a vision board. If you want to take a look at it, you can head to my Instagram. It is there. I was doing that like kind of as a joke, but I also found it like really fun. I enjoy doing like crafty kind of creative things. And I think it was like a really silly, fun thing that like we got to do together. And I printed it out and I hung it above her bowls where she eats so she can see it every day. And, you know, she has her vision board now too.
The level of extra there, I love it so much. It's perfect. So, yes,
hmm
tortellini has an amazing year ahead. It might just inspire me to make one for Ellie as well. Um, but back to the words, the intentions for the year. But back to our words, our intentions for the year. I followed suit, followed inspiration, and I set two words as well, one for professional life, one for personal.
Are you willing? Can we just jump in? You want to share what they are?
Yeah, let's go. So for me this year on the personal level, I set the intention of infinite being. And for me, this felt like an intention from my heart and soul because this year, especially with that the intention of expansion and having experienced so many expanded emotions, experiences, connections, opportunities, and whatnot, it really showed me just how limitless we are and how infinite we are. There are infinite number of opportunities and connections and experiences that we can have in this lifetime. There are infinite number of thoughts that we can have and ideas and things that we can create. And so this just felt like the perfect kind of leeway from 2023 to 2024. Infinite being is my intention for 2024.
I love that though too, because even it reminds me a lot of like the conversation we had last week about the limits that resolutions can set on us, and the fact that your word is infinite is the complete opposite of that. And I think it totally opens it. Like I'm picturing like every door being like like open, 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 and like anything is possible when you have such a powerful word like infinite.
Yeah, exactly that. And the Sagittarius in me doesn't love limits to begin with anyway. So this feels like a very astrologically aligned intention for me.
No, I totally love that. I think that's a very Devon intention, and I think it's just absolutely perfect.
Thank you. How about for personal life for you? What's your intention?
My personal word for the year or my personal intention is aligned. And I chose that. I chose that because I want to be able to like come back to myself a little bit more. I want to follow my heart a little more. And I want to make sure that every decision or choice that I'm making, I have this check in of like, is it aligned with my values, what I want, what I'm seeking in life. I think for me, it doesn't like compared to your word, mine feels smaller and not in a bad way, in more like that I need the accountability of a consistent check in. So it gives me the opportunity, like every moment throughout my day, I can check in with, like, does this feel aligned? Is this aligned with what I love? And then after that, after coming up with the word, I journaled about like the things that I value so that I know kind of the path that I want to be on. And now I have that North Star of like, is this aligned with where I'm trying to go?
It's such a beautiful intention and such a great question to continually ask yourself. And, you mentioned that it's like kind of smaller scale, but I would argue that it is like grand scale type being and thinking and feeling, and because it's serving the purpose of like getting you to where you want to go. And so it is a very expansive, like, while it does, I can see what you mean about it being like a more like micro level type intention. I feel like there is so much expansion within that alignment piece. And the more that you come back to that, it's like the more you grow, the more you expand. And I love the process that you shared of like journaling about what that really meant for you, so that at any given moment throughout the year, you're checking in with yourself and you're having your clear, like, yes, this is in alignment. No, this is not in alignment with what I have, the precedent that I have set for myself.
Yeah, I love the check in opportunity that this gives me. And I can always redirect. Like, I talk a lot to my clients about like not looking at things from a judgmental perspective. Like, I don't plan on being like, bad Heather, that's not, that decision wasn't in alignment, but rather like, okay, Heather, that decision wasn't in alignment. What led you to make that decision? And like, how can we learn from that, seeing it as an opportunity and then changing it next time? Like, I think there's a lot of room for growth with this too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what we're going to get into as we give some tips for setting the word, or for coming up with your word for the year ahead. So, right off the bat, I love that you lent yourself that fluidity and that flexibility. And as with anything, the intention itself might stay the same, but our perspective, the way that we approach it, is going to evolve naturally over the year ahead.
Hmm.
So, beautiful share. I'm excited for your year of alignment, my year of infinite being. What's your professional, your business intention for the year ahead?
My business intention for the year, the word that I chose is elevate. So I really liked your word last year of expansion, and it took me a long time to come up with the word elevate. I really liked the idea of expanding and growing. Like, growth just seems like it's too much like of my business name, growing mindset therapy. So I was like, I don't want to do growth. I want something that's going to help me like be bigger. And this one took me a long time. I remember Nick and I were out walking the dog and I was like, all right, let's come up with synonyms for expansion. Like, what other words were that? We really like spitballed ideas. I almost pulled out a thesaurus because I was like, how do I come up with something similar to expansion? And then when I was doing my business vision board, 2 or 3 times I saw the word elevate in a magazine and I was like, all right, like, this is it. Like, thank you, universe, whatever it is. Like, I'm seeing this word over and over. So let's just go with it.
Awesome. One, I love that you and Nick were coming up with these words, that he was helping you come up with these words together. How cool to share that with your partner. And two, I love that word elevate, because again, there's so much fluidity and flexibility for what that can look like. And that's exactly why we had the conversation on why set intentions, not New Year's resolutions, is because a resolution is so fixed. It has to look like this, or you have not succeeded. And with an intention like elevate in your business, oh my gosh, Heather, there are so many different ways that you can like check the box, or scratch it off at the end of the year and be like, yeah, I did this, and in so many different beautiful ways.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I like the word a lot too. And I, again, obviously, like, we've had this conversation a couple times, but the intention behind it just makes it I feel more motivated because I don't know exactly how I'm going to elevate, but I know I'm going to, and I'm excited to see how that happens. So,
Ooh, yeah, yeah. I love that.
yeah, it'll be cool. What word did you come up with business wise?
For my business, for my professional life this year, my word is co creation. For me, that symbolizes aligned collaborations, partnerships, shared projects. I've learned so much in the past 2 years of entrepreneurship that one, I really love working for myself and by myself. I really thrive there and looking at aspects of my human design chart, looking at aspects of my astrology chart. I really do well working for myself and working independently for the most part. However, I also do, and this is also something I found out through human design and astrology, I also really benefit from working with others. All of my best programs that I've ever created, I've brought in a guest facilitator, guest speaker of some sort. I think about our podcast here and how much greater this experience has been because I have you to share this with and to share these conversations with. So, on that more, we'll call it micro level, it's co creating with other people in collaboration that I'm really seeking for this year ahead. And then on that macro level, it's also supporting the belief that I have that we are constantly co creating with the universe, with forces that are bigger than we know, than we can truly understand. And it just kind of puts me in that, like, I'm not alone here. I'm not having to figure this out all on my own. I have my higher self. I have my spirit guides and angels and ancestors and universe that are always here co creating with me.
Yeah. No, I mean, we are at the most basic level, we are social beings, right? Like we need community. And I think the fact that you can incorporate that into your business model is so important. It's something that like I value so strongly too in my business is connecting, supporting other small businesses, creating a sense of community, one as like a virtual business, I think, but also too like if you go into work, you have coworkers. But for us as, I mean, I kind of consider you a coworker, even though like you're your own, I mean, a friend too, of course, but like you have your own business and we don't work under the same company, but you're a peer, you're a colleague. And I think it's important for us to be able to utilize that space and have those people as an entrepreneur, as a solo practitioner, as a virtual business, but also just like in support of one another and for the collaboration piece. I think it inspires us, it helps us in so many different ways. So I absolutely love that.
Thank you. Yeah, it just makes me think that we can get to where we want to go pretty far on our own. We've done that many times in the past, but there's really something so beautiful about reaching out to somebody and saying, "Hey, I need help with this," or "Hey, I'm loving what you're doing. Would you like to join forces and get together with this?" And then beyond that too, trusting, believing in some higher power to guide you and to create with you, it just alleviates some of that pressure that we sometimes put on ourselves alone. So
Mhm.
that is my word for my business for this year. I love the 4 words that we have chosen. So let's pivot and talk a little bit about what we would recommend for those listening who maybe haven't chosen their word or have and they're listening to this and they're like, "Oh, I want to choose a different word." What are some tips, tools that you would suggest for choosing your word or words for the year ahead?
Well, you just said for those who even might want to change their word. And I just want to say, I don't love a blanket statement, but I'm going to make one. I tell my clients all the time, you can always change your mind. So just know that, like, if you're running with this word for some period of time and all of a sudden you feel a shift or like it's not working for you or you want to change your word, change it, in my opinion. I think we can again, blanket statement, but for the most part, always change our mind. You can definitely always change your word. And I think that there's some power in knowing that like you're not locking yourself in for the next year, 12 months of like, this has to be my word. Like, it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that deep. But so that was the first thing I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Um, but then I just need a little disclaimer sometimes. The rule follower in me, like was coming out. But I think for the first thing I want to say is like start paying attention. I think reflecting on the last year and what came of it is a great place to start with what you want to call in or what you want to have this year. What were you grateful for? They teach us in therapy, we talk a lot about like your strengths and your areas for growth. So, what went well and what didn't go so well, and how can you learn from that? And I think that's a really helpful place to start teasing out what is it that I do want and what is it that I don't want this year. And that I think can kind of help us narrow down what it is that we want to intend.
That's really helpful because oftentimes we know the thing that we don't want to experience in our life. And sometimes we have difficulty getting clear on the things that we do want. So I always love to suggest that too is starting point. What do you not want in your life? Okay, we'll find the opposite of that. And then that is really what you're seeking, the oftentimes the opposite of what you don't want in your life. And the invitation to reflect back on all that the past year was and use that to guide your next year ahead. Really great suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that I think backwards all the time about like when we're deciding what we want to eat. I'm like, I know what I don't want to eat. I don't want any of these things. So at least that like helps to narrow it down and then we can filter through the choices that are left. So,
Yeah, perfect.
how about for you, Devin? What tips or where do you suggest people start in trying to set their intention, choose their word?
There are two things that come to mind here, and perhaps an unpopular take, unpopular truth. But the caveat of intention setting is that when we set that intention, when we get clear on what it is that we are calling in, who we're choosing to be, what we're choosing to feel and experience, and we say that with conviction, we do have to be prepared for everything that's to come from that moment that we set that intention because it is energy, because it's really powerful to set an intention. For example, oftentimes people will say or set the intention of experiencing like better relationships in their life. And then they'll start to notice throughout time of working towards experiencing better relationships in their life that some relationships seem to just fall apart or fall to the wayside, or they're experiencing conflicts in existing relationships where they're realizing this doesn't feel so good anymore. Why did this dynamic used to work for me and it's not working for me any longer? And if we can look at it from the energetic standpoint, like, well, you decided, you chose beautifully what you valued, what you know you're worthy of. That's how energy works, law of resonance. What doesn't align with that energy, that expectation, that standard that you've set for yourself will be shown to you more obviously than maybe previously and will kind of just naturally fall to the wayside as you're continuing to decide this is what I want in my life.
I think that's a really important point because we are setting these intentions. And of course, it feels powerful and wonderful and motivating. But the example of like someone setting an intention to have healthy relationships or foster those types of relationships, I'm laughing because I know that that person is going to be faced with relationships that don't serve them, or toxic relationships may even come into their life as a way for them to practice, as an opportunity for them to start embodying that. And I'm laughing now because I'm like, oh boy, like here's my word align. And I know now I'm going to be faced with a lot of opportunities for me to have to make hard decisions that do align with my values. And of course, that's icky and and a little scary sometimes, but also like that's what comes with being a human being on this planet Earth and living in this life, is that we do have to make hard decisions that are the best for us in the long run. And it's not always going to be easy. I always think like short term versus long term. Like if this is something that's easy for me now, it's probably not as good for me in the long run. Where if I have to make a hard decision now that is more aligned with me, that's better for me in the long run. So I get it. I mean, I think that's an important disclaimer, caveat to make, because it's not going to be, like you said, rainbows and sunshine all the time. It's going to be hard decisions and hard choices too, but that's where the growth happens.
Mm, exactly. Yeah. Beautifully explained. Thank you. It reminds me of what we've heard probably for forever. I don't know. I remember hearing this: be careful what you wish for because you just might get it.
Yeah.
And yeah, like set that intention, you will achieve, accomplish, receive, I don't know, fulfill that intention. You just might change, heal, grow through a lot to get there. And it might not be comfortable. It'll probably be uncomfortable the whole way through, but that is the evolution that our soul wants to take us on or take us through.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think it's not always going to be easy. And like that's actually what makes it worth it, you know?
Yeah. And then my second caveat of intention setting is that when we set an intention, we also have to keep in mind the law of polarity, right? And so when you set the intention, say it's, I want to experience abundance in my life. When we set that intention of abundance, we have to remember that, like, law of polarity, there's like abundance of like what we would consider to be the beautiful, positive, great things. But then that also can mean an abundance of the things that we don't want. And so here's where we have to come in. Like, we set that intention. We know that this intention could include all the things, the wide spectrum of experiences that we as humans get to experience. We get to decide as we're experiencing them whether or not we grow through them or learn from them and take them and evolve. When I set my intention last year of expansion, again, I was seeing it through the lens of experiencing all of these great, beautiful relationships, experiences, opportunities, and they were, but that doesn't mean that I didn't experience really hard moments, but I was able to understand that that is part of expansion. And so my last tip is to be mindful when you're setting that intention, that you understand or that you accept that it's going to include a wide range, the wide range of all the experiences that you could have. And it's how you choose to take them on or what you choose to do with those experiences, those lessons learned, that will help you grow in the long term.
Yeah. Read the fine print. I feel
Yeah.
like it's it's not all simple, and there is, I think what you're saying like reminds me of how I always say zoom out. Like, okay, so this is what you want, but before you set that, also zoom out and change your perspective and just look at all of the things that will come with that. Look at what the law of polarity will say. Look at the law of resonance. Like, look at what this could bring in. Like, kind of take off those excited new year motivated glasses and just look at it through like a more expanded perspective and just be aware. It's just like being aware of all of that.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that may have been an unpopular truth. And from that, I give a good luck, everybody. Um, but hopefully it gives the full perspective of intention setting and why we do it. And just like a little precursor to like, this is what is likely to come up when you set that intention.
Yeah. No, it's important. It's not, the hard stuff to hear is also just as important as the easy, fun, light stuff to hear. So,
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
important nugget.
So, as we close out, I know that you shared on social media that you created your vision board and you had a specific method that you used for vision boarding. Before we leave our audience,
Mhm.
would you just share a little bit about how you created that vision board and what method you used?
Yep. So I like to get really crafty with my vision boards. So for my work one, for my business one, I actually did it digitally on Canva. And I found you could download like old magazines on the internet. And I just did like some screenshots. For my personal one, I love a cut and paste. I get my glue out and I just really enjoy that. The formula or the method that I use is called the GRABS method. And it's actually an acronym. The woman that created it, her name is Joyce Schwarz, and I'll put all this information in the show notes for you. But the GRABS method stands for GRABS, which is G is gratitude. So it's just thinking back on the last year. What am I grateful for? What came of last year? What did I accomplish? And really like keeping that reflection relevant in the work that you're doing coming into this new year. R stands for release and receive. So you're going to have to, if you think about this new year and all that you want to accomplish and receive, you probably have to like clear out the closet or clean out some of that muck that you might be carrying. So not only are you trying to like intend and manifest things in this new year, but you're also going to like, get rid of the things that no longer serve you, let go of the ickiness, the muck, the negative thoughts, the relationships or just the patterns, behavioral stuff that just like isn't working for you, release it. And then you'll have space to receive what it is that you want to call in for this next year. The A stands for aligned action. So, what can you do? Like, of course, you're putting all of this on paper, you're reflecting all of it, but like, move that little booty and like get out there and like do it too, Like, of course, we're waiting and there's a whole year ahead, but what can I do to start taking action on some of these things? Are there boundaries that I can set? Is it journaling? Do I want to figure out like after I did my vision board, journaled on my values, like what steps can I take to start moving in this direction? B is believe. So, of course, I love this prompt for journaling. I love this prompt for therapy. Like, what stops me from believing 100% that I deserve this, that I am possible of achieving this or accomplishing this? So, it's like, what do I need to do in order to like fully buy into or fully believe in this? And then S is sharing. So whether that's, of course, we have social media that we can share on, whether that's telling someone else about it, but sharing is important. One, because you're like speaking it into existence, but also like it's a really vulnerable thing for us to share something so personal as our intention or our vision board. It holds us accountable, but it also like there's some people that say like it helps us fight that like negative naysaying voice in our head of like that disbelief. If we don't feel like we totally deserve this, by sharing it with someone else, we're kind of like taking a step forward already to fight that. So that's my GRABS method, not mine, it's Joyce's, but that's the GRABS method that I follow. I think it can apply to setting your intention while also choosing your word, but also like in how you're doing your vision boarding.
Thank you, Heather. I was giggling when you were first telling me about this GRABS method that you used for vision boarding because I was like, of course, Heather has a method, a tool, like some kind of like mental thing to help her create a vision board. But I think that's such a helpful tip for people who maybe have never vision board before or just want to become more intentional with their vision boarding practice because it sounds like a really well-rounded way to bring clarity into what you are calling into this year and to set yourself up for success. And we started last week's conversation talking about that piece of why intentions, because it sets you up for success in your own life. And it sounds like this method does the same. So thank you. And with that,
Mm-hmm.
will you close out our episode by looking up at your vision board, whether that's personal, professional, or tortellinis, and let us know what is calling out to you today?
I have on my business vision board something and it says the major takeaway question mark, do things that make you feel better. And I highlighted that bottom part of do things that make you feel better. So I think this year is about doing those things and setting yourself up to be able to receive those things, to be able to do those things. So this intention setting, vision boarding, grabs method, all of this, I think all of these things are tools that you can use or leave them if they don't serve you, but ways to just be able to create space to do things that make you feel better.
I love that. Thank you for that beautiful reminder that also really goes hand in hand with your intention of alignment and elevate as well.
Yeah. Awesome episode, Devon. Thank you for leading the way and kind of guiding this conversation as much as you did. I appreciate you always. I appreciate our listeners always too. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Yes. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
Bye. We are so glad that you took the time to share this space with us. We'll be releasing new episodes of Mind Meets Body and Soul every Tuesday, so be sure to give us a follow and share this podcast with those you love.
To connect with us and join our communities, head to the show notes where you'll find our contact information and individual websites. Until next week, stay grounded, keep growing, and trust that everything you seek is unfolding for you.